Welcome to Backroom Talk.
We are talking about a pretty exciting, I'm not going to call it a little project because it's a big project.
Oh, the LearnRx thing.
The LearnRx thing.
Yeah.
But no one else in fitness is really doing this. The subscription-based model, weekly class release, lots of different instructors bringing in different viewpoints.
Low barrier digital education platform.
To listen to more Backroom Talk, be sure to subscribe. Learn to design personalized programs with the OPEX system of coaching by heading to opexfit.com.
Well, guys, welcome to another episode of Backroom Talk. I am Georgia, here with Carl today, and we are talking about a pretty exciting, I'm not going to call it a little project because it's a big project that the team here has been working on. This episode drops on Wednesday, and Thursday into Friday for Black Friday, we're officially going fully public with a big offer for this one. So you guys are going to see that all over the OPEX socials and website and an email and everything like that. But we wanted to give you a little bit of context as to what it is. So what is it, Carl? I haven't said the name yet.
Oh, the LearnRx thing.
The LearnRx thing.
Yeah, it's LearnRx, man. You guys know what that is. We've talked about it before.
We have. We've been teasing it a little bit. Some of our instructors have been able to invite people into the platform. Our CCP coaches are in there already, but we haven't really done a big public announcement as we've been refining this thing over the last couple months, making sure it's wrapped up and ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've been working on this for quite some time. Yeah, we made the decision to do this. Was it beginning of 2021? End of 2020? Something like that. But yeah, it was a big endeavor, and, we finished it up a couple months ago already.
Yep.
Was it now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so obviously a lot of refining in that thing, and instructors are, we have a bunch of subscribers in there, and people are really enjoying it, and instructors are putting their people in, and it's good so far.
Yeah, well, it's a really new way of offering coaching education that is different to anything we've done before and anything I know anyone else is doing in the fitness space, really. If you guys are familiar with Masterclass, that's the closest thing I could associate LearnRx with as to what it actually is. But no one else in fitness is really doing this. The subscription-based model, weekly class release, lots of different instructors bringing in different viewpoints. So it's pretty new and exciting.
Yeah, I would just say, I think coming off of that, I would say, it's a low barrier digital education platform, right? So by low barrier, it's price-wise, obviously it's low barrier, and it's low barrier in terms of the dedicated time that's needed to dig into one subject or class and get through that thing. So it's low barrier, and we deliver that thing completely online. And it's a platform for educators to educate and learners to learn. And I didn't want to say instructors to instruct or coaches to learn, because anyone, right? We have instructors that have been instructing for years and years and years in this thing, and we have some coaches that have some really cool things in their brains, and they're diving in, and it's their first time behind camera and actually instructing in a platform like this. So yeah, educators are educating and learners are learning inside of this thing.
Yeah, and some of those learners, obviously we're OPEX, we attract a coaching crowd. So we've got a lot of coaches in there already, but this is open to everyone. And that's probably one of the biggest differences between CCP, the Coaching Certificate Program that you guys know us for, which would be our flagship education and mentorship. LearnRx is designed for anyone that really loves learning about fitness. And the outcome of LearnRx isn't you're going to come away and you're going to be a certified fitness professional like CCP would be. But it's for anyone that loves geeking out about fitness education, including coaches, to be able to do that on a regular basis in a really digestible and enjoyable way, because the stuff looks good too.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned masterclass in that, because I've taken some master classes that have absolutely nothing to do with what I do, or I have no interest in taking a deep dive into that thing. But it's just wouldn't it be cool to know those things? And we just call them those lifelong learners, right? Where there's a lot of lifelong learners in fitness, people that do fitness themselves, but have no intention on coaching another human or making a career out of it. They can jump into the platform and they can just, broaden their horizons essentially in terms of education that has to do with fitness and education that's, a degree or two away from actually being in the gym and exercising and working out. What's your favorite class in the platform so far? I know we're early.
I really...
How many classes do we have in it?
I think there's close to 30 in there now.
Yep.
And the one that drops on Thanksgiving Day, I feel like I can tease it. I'm just going to say it. Functional bodybuilding is going out, as well as a secondary piece, which is anatomy of a hypertrophy cycle, essentially like digging deep into a 6-week training cycle designed with hypertrophy in mind. I'm very excited for those, and I know they're going to be like fan favorites. I really enjoyed Andy Ewington's breathing class. I think he did a really good job of making like breath work accessible for the everyday person. Just like very like simple tests you can do to test like functional breathing capacity for you and your clients. Easy ways to like actually implement that stuff in program design to help someone better connect to breath, because I do think that's a topic that's like wildly overcomplicated and like made to sound way sexier and like harder to wrap your brain around than it actually is. Breathing is important, breath work is important, but like it should be simple, right? It's not as complex as we tend to make it. So I think he did a really good job.
Yeah, he did do a great job, and I quite enjoy his accent.
He's got a real mix of accents going on. He's a fun one to listen to.
Yeah. I know you didn't ask me, but I'm going to tell you what mine is so far.
What is it?
It's actually, and I think with these like bite-sized pieces of education, or even like, the books that we read or the books that we listen to, they're always, you enjoy them, or the movies that we watch or the shows that we watch. What's happening in our lives right now makes that thing better or worse, right? Like the things that you're thinking about, right? Like the things that you're really interested in. Like we just had a conversation on like this book on AI that I'm reading right now, and I'm like super interested in that right now. So it's so intriguing, and I'm like really diving deep into that stuff. But if, I threw in another book that was like it's called like even like a fitness book right now, I wouldn't be as intrigued with it right now, just because I'm so fascinated by this idea. And as I've gone through these classes over the past couple of months, the first one that I went through actually was James's, the How Are You Doing?
Yeah.
It's How Are You Doing, right?
Yep.
And I was just thinking a lot around that time, like about measurement and refinement and what it means. And I think maybe not all of us, but I definitely go through phases where I'm just like, am I measuring the right things? Am I thinking about the right things? And not only in fitness, I'm like in life and business and everything. And I can definitely go down the road of becoming an overanalyzer. So I always have to like check myself a little bit. So when I watched that class, it just hit me at the right time, where James was just talking about lifestyle and fitness and how we're measuring all of that. And I was more thinking broadly about just like everything. And I don't know, I quite enjoyed the conversation that James had on that in that class. And, just the tone, and it hit me. Yeah, that was a really good one. So far, that's my favorite class in that thing.
I think he did a really nice job with that. And he's going to be filming another one in December that we'll put out in January. So there's going to be plenty of James inside of LearnRx, as well as, guest instructors. We'll have people from inside of these walls, so inside of OPEX, yourself, me, Sam, other faces you're familiar with. But then there's also going to be like a bunch of brand new people. And I think that's one of the really, really cool things about what we're doing with LearnRx is OPEX is great, right? Again, the people in these 4 walls, awesome. I think you guys are awesome. I think we do a really good job, but we cannot speak to everything and to all experiences. And we have things that we're good at and we have things that we're bad at. And this allows us to focus on the things that we're good at and let other people come in and focus on those other areas and provide information about, things like prenatal nutrition and supplementation and kettlebell, mastering the kettlebell like Atia did. Just things that we wouldn't necessarily teach on, but that now we're able to offer to coaches in our ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I will say we have more than 4 walls here.
There's quite a few walls.
Yeah. It's 1, 2, 3,
it's
4.
It's oddly shaped building,
5,
right?
6. I get what you're saying, though. The outside has 4.
We're not going to speak the whole time about LearnRx for this episode. We wanted to have like a bigger conversation about education, some of the goods and the bads and the problems with traditional coaching education, and then what we kind of see as potential solutions to creating better educated coaches. But just a little more reflection on what the process has been like to bring LearnRx to life, because I think for the person listening, someone who hasn't gone from like this idea to actually like taking that idea through development with creating like an online platform, there's a whole lot that goes into it and a whole lot of people that go into it. So I want to give them some love and just reflect a little bit like on what that process has been like, so people understand again the kind of work that went into bringing this to life. So any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, everything starts with an idea, right? The difference between, what becomes of that idea and what does not become of that idea is the execution, or like the moving that idea forward. So, we had an idea last year, and that idea was moved forward, and you could probably speak better to that than I can, because you were instrumental in getting this thing rolling, and the team was instrumental in getting this thing rolling, and the way that it looks, the way that it feels, the way that it was developed, and all of that wasn't me at all. So you guys just did a great job on this thing.
Thank you, Carl.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. What are your reflections on the process and all that? I'll just say it started with an idea, and a lot of management, to that idea, and understanding what we were trying to get out of this thing. So with that idea, you have to have a vision, right? Where it's like, okay, what do we really want this thing to be? And like we already talked about, right? It's like we want it to be low barrier. We want it to be accessible. We want it to be affordable. We want to give educators a platform to educate. We want to give learners a platform to go in and learn in a way that they're used to consuming. Fitness education, I don't want to say historically, because it's not like it's been, something that's been going on for hundreds of years, but relatively historically, it's been, we had a good membership site, right? Like we put people in, and they were always really impressed, and we wanted to stay ahead of that curve. That became a little bit archaic, and the look and the feel and the UX and the UI and all of that, and we wanted to improve that. So in improving our membership site, where all of our CCP coaches sit, we were like, okay, we had this vision and this idea of how we can take the content we already have in CCP and make the experience better inside of LearnRx. With that idea, we can also put in a bunch of new education ongoing, and it's refined, right? Like the way that it looks and the way that it feels and all of that, it just feels more modern. So that was kind of the vision when we got this thing going. So that's kind of my reflection on like the beginning of that thing. What are your thoughts on how we rolled this thing out?
Yeah, I mean, there's been kind of two layers, right, to it. There's the instructors developing and creating their content, and then there's everything that goes on behind the scenes in terms of like the actual like design and development of the site. And again, to the team that was involved in that, they've done an incredible job, and it looks so slick. If you guys haven't seen it yet, go to learnrx.app. You can like already see and click around and get a little taste of what it actually looks like on the instructor side, and that's where I played a role, really facilitating those guys to lay out and organize their content and then go on and educate. And again, they're the ones with all of the ideas in their head. But for many people who may have been first-time educators and not stepped behind a camera before, not organized things out like in a class in a really, again, digestible and understandable way, it was super cool to get to go through that process with them and see them grow and develop as educators and really, just learn how to better communicate information that they have and they're using in their coaching practice. Because, man, some of the coaches that have been around OPEX for years and years and years, those guys are doing amazing things in their gyms. And they're offering these, great services to their clients in like cool little niche areas. So for them to learn how to package that up and be able to share it with other coaches so that we can all grow together, I think that's just been like a really cool process. And having the opportunity to communicate with those guys and see them like be really proud of themselves in the work that they've put forth, that's been cool.
Yeah, and I mean, something that we're really focused on is high production value on this as well, right? This isn't, we're not using iPhones and putting some iPhone videos on a platform, right? It's like, the things that are being discussed and the classes that are being laid out and proposed, there's a lot of thought that goes into these, a lot of effort that goes into these, and we really want that to show in the end consumer, or the person that's behind the screen and watching that. We want to give that subject, we want to give that educator, we want to give them what they deserve in production. So that's another big thing. The production value will always be high in this thing.
Definitely. The other thing I'm pretty stoked about, and something we've been asked for a long time, is just like more access to seeing program design. Because, right, you go through CCP or you're a coach and like you're learning all of these principles and like you're practicing yourself, but humans are voyeuristic. Like we love to see what other people are doing and how other people attack, different goals, and they see this assessment and this is how they take this person from A to B. So for us to be able to just like lay out some more ideas around like longer term training cycles and offer program design, and I know we'll be doing that in the anatomy series, really, again, putting together these programs. They'll sit in CoachRx and in LearnRx. We'll have videos that accompany them. I think it's really going to serve that need and that want to just see more program design.
Yeah, and it's also it's awesome to have those two platforms now that we can refine going into next year, where we have our education platform in LearnRx and we have our coaching platform in CoachRx. So definitely we'll definitely create more connections between those two platforms, and we're starting to do it with the sample programs and all that stuff that'll sit inside of CoachRx.
Definitely. Gosh, I feel like it was just yesterday we were sitting in this room talking about the launch of CoachRx. I remember when we did a podcast talking about that.
I know. Yeah. Gosh, we rolled out 2 startups this year, which was a lot of work and a lot of fun as well. And we didn't roll them out because they were hasty and we're like, oh, wouldn't it be a great idea to do this? It's these are things that make a lot of sense based on what we do as a company, and we've talked about different ideas and iterations of these ideas over years and years. We've finally just did it this year, so it's good to have those things, both of those things out, and the next decade we're just going to refine the crap out of those.
Definitely. Well, you were talking to me a little earlier about this notion of seasons of learning and how we all go through different stages in our education and how you kind of see LearnRx filling that need for people. So could you share just a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, for sure. Learning is really interesting. The way that we learn as individuals. So what the heck do we talk about all the time at OPEX? It's like we have to honor the individual, and we have to understand that every individual does exercise different, adapts to exercise different, is capable of doing lifestyle practices differently, learns differently. So, it's unfair to assume that everyone can be 100% dedicated to learning all the time. And that's something that, you have conversations with CCP coaches about when they come into the system, right? It's like, this is what the curriculum is. This is what the program is. And we're not saying that you have to be absolutely all in for 12 weeks in CCP, but you got to be in, right? Like, it's not something you're just doing for, 5 or 10 minutes a day. It's like, it's a commitment. You're turning yourself into a CCP coach and everything that's involved inside of that. LearnRx, we didn't want it to be that, right? Like CCP is over here and LearnRx is over here. So LearnRx, what is that for? It's for the person that just wants to learn new things in fitness or around fitness. It's for that CCP coach to continue and refine their learnings. But we don't want people to feel like they have to constantly just be behind their computers learning, and never going out and doing. So the way that we set up LearnRx is, it was in a way that people can dip in and out, right? The classes are, 20 to 40 minutes. The classes are here, out. We have notes associated with every class. They're very concise. They're very to the point. They're classes, not courses. So we didn't want to create something that saw people, that would have to see people be in that platform for 20 hours a week to get through a certification. That's not the point. So in the seasons of learning idea, it's like we all go through, like, let's say you and I owned a gym, right? And we knew that November, December, January, February were like, business is like, we need to be really, really focused on business, right? We need to retain our clients going into the new year. We need to acquire clients coming out. We're thinking about, objectives for our gym and what we want to do and all of that. During that time, we're probably not all in on learning, right? We're probably listening to some audibles. We're reading some books. Maybe we're listening to some podcasts, but we're not going through like full curriculums at that time. And then we get to like the April and the May and the Junes, and we're like, okay, pretty chill time. This is our season to learn, right? So typically we have to think about that, right? Like the ebb and flows of learning, because when we sign up for a certification, we have to be all in on that certification. LearnRx allows us to just be a part of, make that learning process a part of our weekly, monthly rhythm without having to go all in, right? Class releases on Thursday. You have an entire week to go through that class, that 40-minute maximum class. Another one's out the next Thursday. Maybe you're like, I'll bookmark that. Maybe I want to, watch that one in a couple months when it's more relevant for me. Then next week something comes out. You're like, boom, I could definitely get through that, right? So we don't have to operate in those seasons with a platform that is just constantly pushing out bite-sized information. And when I say bite-sized, I don't mean like, 5 minutes you're out, but it's consumable in a week. It's consumable in a day for a lot of people. So it kind of solves that problem of having to be all in all the time on learning.
It lets you pick what you're interested in and what's relevant to you in the moment as well, because maybe it is like business season and you're focused on that. You could take our client retention class that Anaki Rosa from OPEX Condesa has put together. We're going to have that out in English and Spanish at the beginning of December, which I'm pretty excited to have some Spanish education in there as well. Maybe you're super into program design. You could take our auto regulation class. It's going to be coming out in December as well from Renato. So you get to pick what you're interested in, focus on the classes surrounding that at that time, and then decide you want to move on to something more business focused, more life coaching focused, more nutrition focused as you, kind of work through those different seasons there. And that is the nice, like, non-linear nature to a platform like this. You get to pick what you want. There's no, like, you have to work through it in this order. Of course, there is a time and a place for working through education in like a logical manner.
Yep.
CCP is that, for example. Like, we want to make sure people come out the other side of CCP as a like very well-rounded coach, having hit exercise, behavior, and nutrition and everything around those. But with LearnRx, the goal is just to learn what is relevant for you and enjoyable for you at that time.
And you might consume something that you didn't know that you're interested in, but because it's so low barrier, you're like, oh man, I want to dig a little bit deeper into that topic. So yeah, I think there's some positives on both sides there.
Yeah, I mean, when we were initially talking about this and like the way we wanted to describe it, the thing that like came up was, imagine if instead of spending 5 minutes a day scrolling Instagram, you spent 5 minutes on your learning. And I want to challenge you guys, like listening. What if you did that, right? Like, take 5 minutes out of your day, watch a video or two in LearnRx, or if it's not LearnRx, choose something else, whatever it might be. But obviously we want you to go and check out LearnRx. Yeah. But take 5 minutes out of your day. It doesn't have to be 2 hours study block. Spend 5 minutes on learning. Do that every single day. Make a habit out of it, through this next month, and see if you're a better coach or just a better fitness enthusiast 30 days from now.
Yeah, I like that. I'll take you up on that, Georgia.
All right. Yeah,
I'll spend more than 5 minutes a day, though.
7 minutes.
I'll go 7.
Yeah, we're in it with you guys. So let's talk more broadly about just kind of some of the problems with traditional coaching education. We've obviously been on both sides of it now, right? Like, we've been the person that's going through education of different forms as coaches. And now we sit here at OPEX, in an education company as educators, working with coaches coming in from different backgrounds, trying to make sure we meet them where they're at and we give them what they need to be the best, most professional coach possible. So yeah, just would love to talk about some of the big problems and then what we see as potential solutions to them.
Yeah, I mean, the first one we discussed was accessibility. So accessibility can mean so many different things, So the first thing that comes to mind when I think of accessibility is, there's a lot of programs that I've been in the past, couple decades. Couple decades. Gosh, I'm aging myself.
Ooh, don't say that.
No, but there's a lot of programs that I've been in where it's like, what was the barrier of entry? What did I need to know? What was the prerequisite that was needed to go into that program? And to be quite frank, even if there is, a lot of companies don't say that there is because they just want you to join that thing, right? So it's like, what is the knowledge base that's needed for that information to be accessible to you? And there's nothing worse than jumping into something and you have no context and you're just like, man, I'm lost. I'm completely lost. And then you have to kind of like navigate that thing and find your way. So yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind for me is just like, the way that some programs are set up, they're just not accessible to everyone, and that's okay. But that program needs to say like your prerequisite for going into, English 102 is English 101, right? Like you need to finish 101 so you can actually grasp the pieces that are in this 102 class.
Yeah, fitness is funny, right? Because I feel like either the barrier to entry is way too low or it's way too high. There's not like traditionally there's not been a happy medium in between. Like you're taking a kind of throwaway PT cert or 2-day weekend course, like short little thing, or you're going to university and like spending 5 years, maybe longer, going through education there. Some of it is going to be relevant, some of it is not going to be relevant, but you're going to be a whole lot poorer coming out the other side. So there just hasn't been a great middle ground historically.
Yeah, gosh. When you said that, I was thinking, what are my experiences on both sides of that? I've obviously had the more robust experience and the typical secondary education piece, and a lot of really good learnings came out of that for me. And I would never say like, don't do that, right? Like if a young coach came to me and they were like, I'm thinking about doing X, Y, Z. I want to go to the University of Y. What do you think? It's like, yeah, definitely do it. There's a lot of, really good experiences and base level pieces of knowledge that can be implanted in your brain by doing that. But I had peers that went through that process with me, and I saw a lot of them, most of them actually, that were in the same exact program that I was in. They didn't get anything from it, and they never did anything with it. And when I say they didn't do anything with it, I mean like they finished and they were doing something completely different that had nothing to do with anything that was taught in that program, and they were just out and they've never looked back. And even when I have conversations with a few of them, it's like, do you regret spending $150,000 to get that, fairly robust education at a pretty good university? And even they're just like, and I'm like thinking of two people specifically, but it's like, no, the experience was awesome. That experience set me up for so much more. So you could have put anything in the, class A, B, and C. And no matter what I was learning, the things that I learned from having to learn those things was so valuable. So like the higher barrier things, I still think that for a lot of people, that's important. Less so today, though. Just because it depends on, what that person is going to do. If we're talking about coaching specifically, I think that there's something to committing to something bigger. That's what James wanted to put together with CCP when he initially did it, right? He was like, because he went through the whole university thing, and he's like, what would I have done, right? How would I have put that program together if someone came in and they're like, I want to come out of the other end to coach? And that's where CCP started. So I would actually say CCP is high barrier. University is high barrier. CCP is high barrier. University is higher because you're committing to less than a year with CCP. You're committing to 5+ years, 4+ years with university. So I would actually say that today those are both high barrier. Low barrier, those are the things that you described, right? Like a weekend course. I think you said throwaway PT certificate, things like that. And I've had some awesome experiences in 2-day courses or 2-day classes as well. But it's all based on, how you consume that. Obviously what's being consumed is really important, and how that hits home with you. But, I've had some really good experiences with, like weekend summits and weekend classes and stuff like that. But you just don't go into those things with the idea that you're going to come out and like create like this decade-long career out of that 2-day certification. It's just like those are refinement pieces. It's kind of like what we talked about in LearnRx, right? LearnRx is refining your craft or just learning a little bit more. It's not like the end-all be-all.
Definitely. And I think like when it comes down to it, it's all good, right? Like any kind of learning is good so long as you can take something from it. and have it like change the way you operate as a coach, as a human, whatever it might be. So long as you had a learning from that one thing, awesome. Whether it was short, whether it was long, whether it was cheap, whether it was expensive. But at the end of the day, you do need to make sure that you have like the base competency you need in your role as a coach.
Yeah. And accessibility, cash as well, right? Can you actually do it? Right? Can you afford to do that thing? The high barrier thing, and the highest barrier in university, most people can't afford to do it, but they do it anyway, right? And they pay for it, for lack of a better term, they pay for it for the next 20 years, paying those loans back and all of that. So yeah, cash has to be a consideration as well. It's like, education is an investment. It really is. So whenever we think about investments, we should always think about what is our return on that investment. So when we go through education, it's like, why am I doing it? And am I getting the value back from it? University, a lot of people see returns on their investment, obviously, right? Like they need that degree to do the thing that they're going to do. CCP, people see the return on their investment. They're taught how to coach people. They go coach people. They charge that person or those people a certain amount. And when that exceeds the amount of money they paid for CCP, they just got an ROI on CCP. Something like this, like a subscription service. It's like, can you get a return on investment on, $30, $35, $40 a month? It's like, maybe, right? Like, depends on what you do with the information. So, in terms of cash, I think we always have to look at it like, what am I doing with it, and am I going to see a return on it? I think it's easy for people to say, well, where else was I going to spend that money? And it's like, can I just replace it with something else? It's like, so we've heard this a million times, but knowledge is power, right? It's like knowing what you don't know and refining what you do is a skill. It really is. And I think we all, if someone's listening to this podcast, they're probably into learning. Like learning is a hobby for them. So that's why it's so easy to have this conversation on LearnRx. And it's like, is it worth the investment? It's like, gosh, if we tally up the amount of cash that we're spending in learning, I think we'd be surprised, right? I've done this before. I'm like, how much am I spending on Audible? How much do I spend on books per month? How much do I spend on this subscription? How much do I spend on, being able to read these articles? And I was like, shit, I'm actually spending a decent amount. But I didn't feel bad about it, right? Because I'm just like, that's all power, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and it's a hobby.
Absolutely. I mean, when you sit down, I just did this recently, but in CCP, we have the priority questions, and you go through and you answer these series of questions, and you come up with like this list of ultimately like what your top priorities are. And if you sit down and you go through that exercise, and learning is one of the things on your list, that's one of the things on my list, then yeah, you probably want to put some investment into that area and be okay with doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd say it kind of connects nicely to point number 2, because I think a lot of the frustration with like investing a bunch of money and time in something like a university degree comes out of this like sense that there's a lack of real world application. I hear that a lot from coaches who are applying to CCP. Like, I did this degree, I did this course, I spent a lot of time and money there, but I still don't feel like I really have what I need to work with clients. So I think that's where the disconnect is. It's like not so much that something's expensive or that it takes time. It's that it's not actually helping them do the thing that they really wanted to do. And that is probably one of the biggest problems with traditional education. It's not actually helping coaches coach their clients.
Yeah, gosh. Yeah, that's a good one. Usability, that's like being able to apply what you learned or use that information. That's a complicated one. Because sometimes we can arm people with everything. It's like, this is all the knowledge you need. This is how to apply this knowledge. Here are the steps to apply this knowledge. Here's this like software that you need to apply this knowledge. And sometimes people are just like, I don't know how to apply it, right? And sometimes it's that person is just, they're just afraid. They're just afraid to fail, right? So it's like they have all this knowledge in their heads, and they're like, okay, how do I go from having this knowledge in my head to using this knowledge with another human being? Because we're talking about coaching specifically, right? So it's always such an interesting thing where you have to, and a lot of the time, that can be solved through like a simple conversation, where it's just like, yeah, you're not making any sense, right? Like you have the knowledge to actually go out and use all of this stuff in the real world and all of that. And that solves a problem for a lot of people. It's like, oh, thank you for giving me that kick in the ass. That's what I needed. But on the, education side, like taking that knowledge from, from a traditional sense and university education and going in and applying that knowledge the day after you get that piece of paper, I would agree with you. I would probably sit in the same seat as the people that you talk to on the phone, and they're just like, I have all this stuff, but I don't know how to use it. 'Cause that's where I was when I got spit out of university. I was just like, wait, what now? We don't have a class after this that says like, okay, now you do this. It was like, 'cause I even remember it was like my last couple semesters. I was taking courses that had nothing to do with my major because I'd already finished those, because you're really excited to get through those, right? So I finished all of them. So like my last my last half year to year was like nothing around what I was doing. And I like got to like the month of graduation, and I was like, oh shit, what am I doing? What am I supposed to do with this? What do I do now? So I definitely felt that. So that's definitely an issue in all education. It's like, here's the knowledge. How the hell do you now apply this knowledge?
It's the old saying, like, use it or lose it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of how many things I've learned and forgot over the years. Like, it makes me want to cry thinking about that. But,
I feel that way when I read a book.
yeah, I know.
And then I like reflect on it a year later,
You're
and I'm like,
forgetting everything.
wait, what was that about? And I'm like, oh, did I just waste all that time? I would say no. But
I'm rereading a book right now for that very reason.
Which one?
It's fiction, actually.
Okay.
It's called The Secret History. It's like one of my very favorite books.
The Sacred History.
The Secret History. The Secret History by Donna Tartt. It's very good. Yeah, rereading that and rereading Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep.
Okay.
Yeah, so awesome. 2 rereads going on at the moment,
awesome.
depending on my mood.
yeah, got it.
Very different energies for those books, but yeah, God, if you don't have the opportunity to like actually practice doing something, like you're just reading about it, you're not going to remember it 3 years from now.
Yeah.
And you have to actively practice it ongoing, which is what we do as coaches, right? Like we get really good at doing assessments because we do them over and over and over again. We get good at writing programs because we're doing it over and over and over again. Is your education actually asking you to do that, though? That's the question.
Yeah. And it's like, do we blame the education or do we blame the person for not holding themselves accountable to figuring out how to go from point A to point B?
Yeah. We're all responsible for our own success, right?
That's what they say. That's another quote. Before we hit record, you said a quote over there that I was like, oh, we need to write that down.
So not profound that I've forgotten it already.
Okay.
It's one of those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot it too.
Yeah, it couldn't have been that good.
It was good in the moment. Should have wrote that down.
So, lack of real world application, I think, is definitely a problem that we're trying to address. Yeah. I mean, CCP that's like the biggest area that we do that, right? Like we're asking coaches to go through case studies and to actually implement what they're learning. They're doing self-assessment. They're like moving and feeling fitness themselves as they're going through. And then with LearnRx, the thing that I'm excited for about those classes is that they're developed by coaches and by educators who are actually using these things. Yeah. They're all very like, this is the thing that I do with my clients, like on a like daily, weekly, monthly basis. And here's how you can now go and do it. Like Henry Turano's setting macro intake and protein setting caloric intake and macronutrient requirements, his class. He gave coaches the spreadsheet that he uses in his practice to like do the behind the scenes like calculation of like total intake and then protein, carbs, and fats and how he shifts that over time. So just some really good helpful tools in there that you can actually go and use. Yeah,
it's beneficial to hear that stuff from someone that's in the trenches and doing it with dozens and dozens of people currently. And that's where the typical or traditional education, that's where that model can fall short sometimes, because sometimes you have professors that are teaching things that they've either never implemented or they haven't implemented in 20 years. Not saying that every professional falls into that category, but every professor falls into that category, but most of mine did. Yeah, most of mine did, where it was like, what are you doing this stuff?
Yeah, we know humans in reality are like not like humans in a textbook as well. And so I think when someone is educating with that like at the top of their mind, because you know they've just written 15 programs in Coach RX like the day before, that's very beneficial.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, third problem that we have here written down is that a lot of education, you just hear the same point of view over and over and over again. Everyone's sitting
boring.
here. Yeah, they're sitting here like we hear from Carl and Georgia every single week. It's so repetitive.
We're tired of it.
Yeah, but that's why we're doing LearnRx, right? Bring more people in.
Yeah, for sure. We think we're the best in the world to teach what we teach in CCP. So we'll stand behind that where it's like, hey, we don't want other people teaching in CCP right now. But for all this other stuff, right, like the continuing education, it's just so beneficial to hear it from someone else. And, you know, you might get taught something twice from two different people, and it just hits home from that second person, right? Just because of their delivery, the way that they speak, the way that they explain things, so on and so forth. So it's good to have a bunch of different points of views inside of one platform. And it's always going to be dynamic, right? There's always going to be new points of views that are coming in. You know, let's be honest, like we're not just throwing shit at the wall and hope it sticks. Like we're not just putting everything in this platform under the sun. Like that stuff is being looked at and approved before it goes in the platform because it has to vibe with our beliefs, right? In fitness. Some of it kind of skirts and kind of, you know, challenges some things that we believe, which is always good, right? It's like, you know, I would love to say we're not dogmatic, but I think every human being is dogmatic. Every company is dogmatic. Everyone is. And it keeps you honest when you bring different voices in. Yeah, because you can't truly be when you have 50 different people saying different things.
Definitely. Well, when you guys go and click and check out learnrx.app and like scroll around the classes, you'll see what we're talking about. Like there's a ton of instructors in there, and that will just continue to grow as the weeks progress. I've got so much.
I have the most classes right now.
Are you ahead?
Oh gosh, yeah. I think I have like 10 more than the next
Probably
person.
So. Well, you know what? I control the content calendar, so I'm just gonna work on a bunch of classes just so I can beat you.
That's not gonna last. As we get more people in this thing, it'll be more than just me. But hey, you know, it's I'm on the throne right now. You gotta kick me off.
I'm gonna knock you down a peg.
No, I'm kidding.
No, so you guys get in there, go check out everyone that's teaching in our instructor page so far, and we've got so much content that's like just sitting in reserve right now, things that have been filmed and created already that I wish I could release everything all at once, but then there wouldn't be anything good for next week. So we got a lot of good stuff coming out over the next few months and beyond. Last point that we wanted to talk about as to one of like just the issues with education is that it's not driving towards this continued goal of mastery. And you guys are probably, if you know James, you've heard him talk about the notion that we're on this like continual roadmap towards coaching mastery. And, you know, we don't ever officially become a master coach, right? Like it's not an end state, but it's something to be striving towards.
James, I think James is the only one that's sitting on.
He might be a master.
He's sitting on the he's sitting on the mastery throne. I'll give that to James. And it's mastery is relative, right? Like, and I say that half joking, but it is relative, right? It's like, you know, when I say that, I'm thinking of everyone else that I've ever been, you know, in front of instructor-wise and coach-wise and all of that. And yeah, James is definitely at the top of the totem pole for me. So I would actually say that, you know, James is sitting in that mastery place, and it shows in what he does on a day-to-day basis, right? But yeah, for the rest of us peons, we're just working our way toward it, and we may never get there.
But we want to make sure education is pushing us towards that. And mastery is not about like knowing more and about knowing everything. It's about refining what you know and making sure that, yes, you're bringing in new information, but you're actually doing something with that information by connecting it and integrating it with your practice, right? Like it's not about random knowledge and about having read every book, because no one can do that. Like we're never going to know everything. You don't have to know everything to be a master, but you have to be, again, constantly integrating and growing out your ecosystem of knowledge.
Yeah, gosh, I agree. And I like what you were saying with books, because it's like a badge of honor to like read, right? Which I get. Like I love books as well. But think about the books you read, not like the specific books you read, but think about how you absorbed the information from books you read, fiction, nonfiction, anything, a decade ago versus today. Books are just better today. Would you agree?
I feel like I
Do
need
you
more
want me to keep going?
context for
Okay.
that statement.
Oh,
So keep
I
going.
thought I could just stop. So if you're rereading books right now, right? If you took a book that you read 10 years ago, and it could be anything, it could be 5 years ago, and you're like, okay, I'm going to reread that book. When you reread that book today, it's going to be better because you have more experience in life to actually connect it to. You have more what we would call context, right? So, you hear that. We had a conversation last year with someone, and they're like, "You're not ready for that book," and it was funny, and we joked about it. But that could be true in some aspects. Sometimes you're not ready to learn something. Sometimes you're not ready because you don't have the experience for it to actually connect. So, as we become wiser, as we become smarter, everything that we digest, everything that we read, everything that we learn, it just hits differently because now we have it to compare to that situation that we were in 2 years ago. And 3 years ago, we didn't have that situation to give that thing context. So, just because you said the book thing, that's true. But as we get more experience and as we do more things in life and as we work with more clients and as we do more, when we learn things, they're just that much better. So that's why people reread books.
Mm-hmm. It's very true. Yeah, you got a new little perspective. I smirked to myself when you said hits differently because the hits different is very Gen Z. I don't know if you've heard people using that. Yeah,
No,
I think so.
Oh,
I think so.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was pretty hip of you.
No, I was thinking, man. I don't know.
You said hits differently, but hits different.
Hits different?
Hits different is
maybe I picked that up from my 10-year-old.
like the ice cold water hits different on a Friday afternoon.
Oh, that might be Colton. Yeah,
It
Colton
might be.
Yeah, Colton's considered
I think
Z,
he's
right?
Gen Z. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my 10-year-old. He's keeping me in the loop.
Not to go too off track.
Yeah. But yes,
a little off track.
I'm gonna go off track. Yesterday I was in the kitchen and Carson will just start to sing random songs sometimes. My 5-year-old, and I got him some Jordans a little while ago, and he's on his iPad in the living room, not knowing anyone's around him listening to him, and he's like, "J's on my feet, J's on my," and I start dying laughing. Because I probably jokingly said that when I bought him the shoes, and he just remembered that, and he's just like, "J's on my feet, J's on my."
Was he wearing his J's?
No, he wasn't. He had socks on.
Oh, he's probably.
But Janice found on his iPad pictures. He was in the back of my car. He took his shoes off and put them nicely on the seat, and then his iPad, he was taking pictures of his Jordans from different angles.
Oh.
So funny. Janice and I saw that. We just started dying laughing. He was super embarrassed, but
that's so nice. It's good that he appreciates having some sweet kids.
Yeah. But Gen Z. Sorry, I got us off track on that.
That was well worthwhile. You've made my Friday afternoon hearing that little story about Carson.
Yeah. So that hits differently.
It's different.
Hits different.
Damn.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a thing.
Where'd you hear that?
On a TV show initially, and then I've heard kids in kids jiu-jitsu, the kind of 13, 14-year-olds are using that language.
I swear to God, I think that is just a comeback.
It might be.
Because I feel like that was something when I was a kid as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, things happen in cycles, right?
Yeah.
It's the seasons of language.
Seasons of pop culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, where were we? I have no idea. Mastery.
Yeah.
Towards mastery.
Yeah. So, I think where we're going with that was, it's nice just to settle in and focus on driving toward mastery in a single thing, and this single thing, in our opinion and our thoughts and what we believe, is exercise, nutrition, lifestyle, behavior, stuff like that. So it's all wrapped. Fitness is wrapped around all of those things, but it's a bunch of different things inside of it. And, who knows what's going to be on the content calendar in this thing, 2 years from now. we may go way off course and get into some different things that we can bring back to fitness. And we're like, hey, we think that this is a very interesting topic because it connects to human behavior, and it may have nothing to do with coaching, nothing to do with fitness. I say 2 years from now, that's probably going to happen in the next few months, but
Yep.
Yeah, driving toward that coaching mastery.
Yeah, just one like quick little note on that is I like the fact that a lot of the classes in there are coming from OPEX educated coaches. Not all of them. We've got some people that are in there now and putting content in the future who've never been through CCP, but obviously we just align with, right? We jive with culturally. We think they've got really good things to say, but all of them, and especially the OPEX coaches that have information inside of there so far, they're all coaching with the OPEX method, and they might be teaching a class on, I don't know, what's a good example? Again, auto regulation or prenatal nutrition or client retention, but it's all wrapped around the OPEX method and coaching with individual design. So you know that what you're learning, especially if you're an OPEX coach, is going to be relevant for you and how you work as a coach.
And to be fair, right, the OPEX method is just us putting a bunch of principles that have always been there or been around for decades and decades and decades. We're just putting them all together in this thing called the OPEX method. Yes, in some things we use our own language. We say things a little bit differently to connect better. But yeah, we teach principles, right? We teach principles. So just because you said that they've been through CCP and, they utilize the OPEX method, it's not that we have this like super squirrel secret thing behind the scenes where it's like, whew, it's like they consumed the principles that have been put into CCP over the past 20 years. That's it. Yeah, we don't propose anything too crazy in there.
No.
Drink some water.
Go for a walk.
Eat some broccoli.
Chew your food.
Don't be so stressed.
Get some sun.
Move blood.
Lift weights.
Look at your shit.
I feel like let's leave it right there. But guys, I thank you for indulging us on this conversation. We're super excited, as you can probably tell, about the launch of LearnRx. And if you are listening to this and it's Wednesday, which is when the episode releases, like you can go and check that thing out now. So it's learnrx.app. Go around, click around. Maybe you're already a CCP coach and you're in there already. You can even like view a couple free classes that we have sitting in there. So you could go ahead and do that now. But what we want you to know is that we're in the US. Black Friday is a big deal here, and companies tend to do special promotions and offers around that. So because we're releasing this platform, we are going to have a special offer for LearnRx over that weekend. So if you check your email at like midnight on Thursday, which would be like very first thing in the morning, Friday morning for Black Friday, there will be a special offer from OPEX sitting there in your inbox. If you're not on our email list for any reason, you don't like emails, go check out our social media at OPEX Fitness. You're going to see it there as well. But we will have a special holiday offer for LearnRx for Black Friday that we'd love you guys to be able to go and take advantage of. And we want to hear your feedback. Let us know what you think of this thing. If you're listening to the podcast and then you go right away and you get into LearnRx, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of the platform. It's going to be overwhelming trying to decide what your first class is, though. It's like a kid in a candy store. If you're someone, I don't know, like us, that's like just loves education.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I was just thinking as you were talking through like Black Friday, I was like, next year we need to call it Fitness Friday, and we need something to go with Monday. I'll think about that.
Okay.
Fitness Friday.
Fitness Friday, Movement Monday.
Movement Monday.
Yeah?
Yeah. Fitness movement. Yes. This is the fitness movement. Fitness Friday, Movement Monday.
We get a little delirious on a Friday afternoon
Heard
if
it
you
here
can't tell, guys.
Heard it here first. So, hey, we might even do that this year.
There we go.
Fitness Friday.
Yeah, guys.
I'll do it in my head. It's Fitness Friday.
All right. Well, so long as
Every
it's Fitness Friday
every
for
Friday's
you,
Fitness Friday.
It is indeed. Guys, LearnRx, go check it out. LearnRx.app. We will pop a link in the show notes / the description for you to be able to check out there. The other thing is, get on that podcast, leave us a review. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. That stuff really, really helps us grow and put more content out.
And listen to our other
our little co-hosts that we now have.
Yeah, crafted conversations.
Yeah, I don't think we've had a chance to mention that yet because we did pre-record a couple of episodes before those guys actually launched. But there is now a second segment. So every Friday, Mike McElroy and Sam Smith from the Crafted Coaching team release a podcast as well under Backroom Talk. It's a little more focused on the fitness doer. So someone that is working out, you're probably a coach. You might be a coach, you might be an athlete, whatever it might be. It's just a little more focused on that side of things, whereas we're a little more coaching education focused.
Yeah, we're more interesting.
And better looking.
Yeah, more interesting, better looking. They're smarter.
Yeah.
Maybe,
No,
right?
I think we're smarter too. Well, guys.
Everyone can't be smarter, Georgia. I need to say something nice about them. Gosh.
They're great.
We're better looking. We're more interesting. You got to give them something. No, we don't. We're smarter. No, I'm kidding,
cool.
guys. We love you, McElroy and Sam.
You guys are great. Thank you.
All right, see you guys.